This is a talk about nothing. And before you ask, you mean like Seinfeld was a show about nothing? Yes, exactly like that. Sorta. We'll get to that. But first, I want to talk about something. When I was a kid, leaving Southern California meant driving through the desert. And not the colorful, painted desert of Wile E. Coyote cartoons, but the boring, plain, low California desert. And the first time I saw Edward Hopper's Gas painting, I said, yes, exactly, that's what it feels like to be on the lonely American highway. And I think it's this use of space around the gas pumps that gives us that sense. Graphic designers call that negative space. It's the space around and behind our main foreground image that gives it a sense of space, of weight, of meaning. Take, for example, the wide open ocean. It's hard to comprehend, but if we put a little tiny boat in that ocean, we can see how big it is. And we learn something about the boat, too. We say, that boat is really far away, or it's really tiny, or it's lonely. And designers use this space all the time in different ways. In retail, the crowded racks at a discount store tell us that we're going to get a bargain, whereas the open spaces in a boutique show us exclusivity and finery. In dining, food packed to the edge of the plate means that you're getting a lot of calories for your dollar. But the white space that's often used in fine dining restaurants tells us that it's something special. It's worth a lot of money and it should be savored. When typesetters started adding space to their texts, it gave it a sense of context and structure. Words separated, sentence separated, paragraphs, chapters. That space gave context. Even in a record, we see that visual space between tracks, and it tells us something about that. It tells us how many tracks are on a record. We can guess at how long a track might be. We can pick up the needle and place it down. In fact, musical notation has a rest, a point that tells us, don't play right now. Many people are attributed with saying music is not the notes, but the spaces between them. It's the silence in between the notes that give meaning to the notes themselves. Take, for example, a concert hall where the band comes down to a very low noise before coming in with a big crescendo, right? That space between that crescendo, that silence, makes that crescendo all the more loud. And no one took this farther than John Cage, who on August 29th, 1952, presented 4 minutes and 33 seconds of absolute silence in Woodstock, New York, which, I imagine, sounded something like this. On that day, Cage made the audience the performers. He brought the ambient background noise of the concert hall to the foreground. And that switch from background to foreground can be really, really interesting. Take something like Central Park. We often think of cities against a background of nature, but Central Park is nature against the background of city. The city gives the nature context, which brings us back to Seinfeld. Seinfeld purports to be a show about nothing, but it is really a show about life against the background of a city. Larry David and its writers really understood the space they were working in, the background. Not just situation comedies, but also the city itself. So that by really understanding that, they could bring to the foreground those really insightful and funny moments. Lao Tzu said that the usefulness of a water pitcher lies where the water might be, not in the form or the material of the pitcher. Water takes precedence over the pitcher, but it can't exist without the pitcher. It can't contain itself. You need that background. What if we took the time to really think about the spaces in which we were working, the stages in which we're playing on? In our lives and in our work, the background that we exist. Be that history, medium, technology, we could carve away all that is unnecessary and bring to the foreground something really insightful, beautiful, and new. So let's do that. Thank you.